We live in a society where two versions of this movie exist. Hey guys, welcome back to Movie in the Middle. As you can see, we finally have editing again. Watch. So I'm really excited about that. Today, our movie in the middle is Justice League the Snyder Cut. This is something that has been anticipated for a very long time since Justice League came out in 2017 and was cut so much that half of it didn't even make sense. People didn't know what was going on, and it was just took away the integrity of the movie, according to Zack Snyder, after he had to leave the production due to the death of his daughter. So fans rallied, and he was finally able to get the green light to do the whole 4-hour Snyder cut of Justice League. This stars a ton of people. Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Gal Gadot, Amy Adams, Ezra Miller, Jason Momoa, Ray Fisher, J.K. Simmons, Willem Dafoe, Amber Heard, Ciarán Hinds. So many people in this movie. So it should be good, I would assume. Now, when I had heard about the extended version coming out, from everything I had been hearing, I wasn't quite sure if it was the Snyder Cut was a whole different thing, or if it was the movie we got, but just longer, more extended. And it turns out it is the second one. It is the same movie, just much longer. Much longer. So let's get into the highs first. Honestly, I appreciate the fact that this was able to be made. I mean, between this and Sonic the Hedgehog, we're starting to see that fans really can change the movie industry. Especially when it comes to things that are very big fandoms. You can rally and get something to be made, which is really cool. So the fact this was able to be made at all, whether or not it was good or bad, was just, I think, I don't want to say groundbreaking, but it was definitely a very big step. In terms of other highs of the actual movie, the fact that we got more of Cyborg's past, because he was absolutely overlooked in the original theatrical cut of Justice League, because there were Aquaman, Flash, and Cyborg were three big characters. That's like half the Justice League, and we were just introduced to them in that movie, and so he didn't get as much of a backstory. Neither did really the others, but specifically Cyborg, I think, and so we got a lot more of him in this. And honestly, I think out of all of them, his is the most compelling story. His is the most interesting. He's one of the more interesting of the six, for me at least. I also really like the, I don't say the chemistry, but the dynamic between Bruce and Diana as being these two leaders of the Justice League trying to bring everybody together, and they're working with each other, and I'll go get Cyborg, I'll go get Flash. And I really liked that as well. I would have liked more of that in the beginning as well. And then also, they redid the design for Steppenwolf, and he's a lot better, because I remember the first time I saw him, I was like, all right, this is kind of a cool looking character, but he definitely looks better now, because he's a lot bigger, he's more overwhelming, intimidating. I love the design that the metal is always moving on him to make him look like he's, always breathing or something like that. But then the fact that that's also sort of armor, he's got just him underneath as well that, is unprotected. And of course, the biggest thing to come out of the Snyder Cut is just all the little references and additions and things that come up, especially mostly towards the end and some in the middle, that are just the fans are going to go batshit crazy. Batshit crazy over this. They're going to get really hyped over this character being mentioned, or hey, that's a reference to this character. He might come up later. And then obviously, I mean, if you saw the trailer, you know that the Joker is in this. I don't want to spoil anything, but I want to avoid everybody having a lot of disappointment that he's really not in it at all. It's the scene you see in the trailer is the scene that he's in. That's not so much of a spoiler as it is just, hey, don't be looking for Jared Leto the whole time. When he did come up, it was a very interesting scene. It was one of those that even though everybody hates Jared Leto's Joker, you're still hanging on to is this going to be better? What is he going to be like in this one? Because he's just come back. So that was very cool too. Even with all of the other stuff going on, I was like, whoa, that's in there. And I didn't expect him to be in there. So that was pretty cool. So let's get into the lows. This movie's unnecessarily long. Like, yes, it did need to be longer to fill in a lot of those gaps, but the problem is this gets into a whole, I think, bigger issue with the DCEU that is very clear, is that they did not do as much setup as they needed to do. This entire connected universe is a mess. And I did not have hope that this extended version was going to completely fix that. It's just impossible. You need to have more setup. However, they did take a 4-hour Justice League to do more setup on some of these characters, like I was talking about with Cyborg. So that was better, but it's just still super long, and they should have just split them up. They just were trying to cram too much in, and it just makes it so unnecessarily like draining to sit through until you get to the actual action parts, especially considering
Everything is in slow-mo. Everything.
every single time we go to one of the news of the characters of the six, we're going to their backstory or something, like their one single, vignette before they all come together. There's always one thing in slow mo, if not like six, between the slow mo and some of the music and these really drawn out shots and some of the very like glorious camera work with the sun. How do I put this without being crude? Zack Snyder was tooting his own horn for 4 hours. And, again, he should, I guess, be able to, considering he's finally able to make the movie. I guess I would. I would be like, all right, yeah, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to really make it, dramatic. And I mean, the DC universe, DC in general, is more dramatic and serious and grandiose, I think, than Marvel. But it just comes off as, you know, a lot of show and a lot of flash for a little bit of actual story, and that's the another big problem with this movie is that both the original and this one, it's just like just things just happen, and again, it's like because they don't have a lot of setup. It's not like with Thanos where we knew what was coming the whole time. It's just okay, now we got to explain the mother boxes, now we got to explain what this is and who that is, and all these random CGI characters coming in there. I have no idea who half of them are, and we have all this exposition and all like just things just happen, and I have no idea what the hell is going on. And then the writing has to be really poor because it's either super super exposition-y or it's just really bad. There's some lines in here that are just kind of cringy, and then when it's not cringy or exposition-y, it's just cliched and generic. The whole like they haven't fought us together, they haven't fought us when we reunited, and we're the superheroes that the world needs. And the villain, it's like I need anti-life because of existence, it's mine. Like it's just all this super generic, like really cliched villain and hero stuff. That gets to my main negative, is that I just don't care. I thought this would make me care. It was exciting to watch some of the other stuff, some of these other characters be introduced. But both cuts, I just don't care. I really don't. I'm not attached to like any of these characters emotionally. Bruce's Batman this time is just he doesn't feel like Batman. And a lot of them, like Superman, I've never really cared about Superman, so I don't know. I just don't really get. I'm not attached to them like I am with Marvel. You don't get attached to anybody's personality except for again maybe Cyborg. I actually cared about him after seeing his backstory. You get a little bit more of that. Also, the fact that they just look kind of goofy sometimes because I don't know what it is, but in some scenes they're just walking places, which like seems very realistic, but I don't know, like they're just walking up steps and it just feels so goofy to look at. So then they have to fill it in with references to this or that or the other thing or whatever it is that while they were very cool, they obviously are just pure fan service, maybe setting up something that we know is not happening now. Warner Brothers said they're not going forward with the Snyderverse, and it's probably for the best. It's just painful how much they want to be Marvel. They literally saw, I've been saying this for years, they saw what Marvel did, and they said, let's do that, and faster. And they didn't do as much setup as they needed to do. The setup that they did is not great. And then they just tried to go right into Civil War, Batman v Superman, And then they tried to do Infinity War here. Or honestly, this could be more like the Avengers, but then with the boxes and everything. And yes, I know a lot of the stuff is in the comics, so it's like, oh, they didn't rip it off. It was in the comics. I get, and I think my brother said that DC actually came first, but it's just very telling how much you can compare. I mean, even line by line and how people look, and some scenes with Bruce going to Barry's place and being like, "This is you, right? And that's your costume." It felt like so much like Tony Stark and Peter in Civil War. So it's really sad watching this, being like they're trying so desperately to be Marvel and failing. It's just hard to watch, and I just wish that they would just try to, I don't know. I feel like the DC stuff is just better standalone because DC thrives on dark and gritty and real, and that's where it really shines. And trying to do a connected universe is hard because you have to have it be interesting and fun sometimes, and it just, the way it looks, just makes it seem like it's trying to be Marvelish with a lot of color and a lot of soft, lighting and things like that, which DC is more about like the hard lighting, like Batman's the detective, and like the Dark Knight. That's one other thing about this movie is it is a CGI fest. It's weird because the stuff that was already there in the theatrical cut is fine. Some of it's fine, some of it's still CGI fest. But then the stuff that they added, you'd think, okay, well, they're just adding stuff. They could really take their time with it, and it looks worse. Everything is like the sun is just glaring on everything, and it looks like CGI, and the motion's way too smooth. Like Wonder Woman like hits somebody, and all of the guys flying back to the wall when she hits all of them like in the building, it just looks so unrealistic. It's so bad. I'm sorry. It honestly looks like a video game. Like it looks like God of War. Like I could have put rated M for mature on Justice League and people would probably believe me. At one point, it definitely looked like Ready Player One. I was like, this is really synonymous with Ready Player One, which is literally about a video game. Guys. I'm also mad because they took out like one of the only actually clever scenes in the original cut, which was when Jason Momoa's, Aquaman was saying something about, like, he always is like, I don't care why, I don't give a crap, whatever. And then he started talking about like, we're actually a really good team. We're gonna be doing this, and like really motivational. And people are like, where is this coming from? And then you see that Wonder Woman's lasso is around him, so he's telling the truth about what he actually feels. That was really interesting. And unless I missed it, which is very probable because it's 4 hours, I don't think it was in this. They cut it out. So that sucks because that was actually like a good moment. So overall, I'm appreciative of the fact that they were able to attempt it. It does not fix anything, and in fact is just pretty much the same thing, just slower. It has a couple cool fan things, but again, they're really just fan service to be fan service. And yeah, I'm glad Zack Snyder was able to fulfill his dream, but I'm not disappointed that it's not really going to go anywhere. I think standalones for the DC universe is where they need to go because we have the Batman coming up, which I think is going to be really freaking cool. So, just if they stay with things like that, I think we'll be okay. I'm going to give the Justice League Snyder Cut a 1.5 out of 4. It was entertaining to watch it with my mom and my brother, who we just kind of ripped into it most of the time. I felt bad, but like then we would be like, all right, yeah, that was cool, So we were honest about it, but it made it a lot more fun. Guys, stay tuned. We have some more Oscar stuff coming up, and Godzilla vs. Kong comes out next week. So we got a lot of more exciting stuff coming up, a lot of big cinematic things. And as always, keep your hopes high, your stress low, and movies right in the middle. I'll see you guys later.